The Dick Cavett Show. Tonight, Dick's special guest is Bette Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Cavett.
That feels so good. Would you do the back? Boy, that's the silliest thing I'll say tonight. Say, I hope we all studied because we have one of our quizzes tonight. And if you didn't, well, now's the time we're going to find out. Here's the thing. I did this once some time back when I had a film star on, and you can't have more of a film star on than Bette Davis, and I thought that this would be appropriate tonight. Some people know everything about the movies, and some of us don't know everything, and some of us know nothing. See which one you are. Just if you know the answer, put up your hand, as you would in a polite classroom. Which of the following was Miss Davis' very first movie? Oh, Brother, Bad Sister, Mother Cabrini. We have a lady, yes.
I think it was Bad Sister.
Bad Sister?
Yeah, isn't that the
Anyone
one
have another guess? The lady who goes with Bad Sister is right. Yeah, very nice. It's always a lady in leather boots who knows the answer. Can anyone give me Miss Davis' entire real name? Hands. Beg your pardon? Elizabeth? Lady there? Ruth Elizabeth Davis? That's right, 3 out of 3. Very good. One of her outstanding films... Don't applaud a stranger in the balcony. You don't know who that is. One of her outstanding films was The Little Foxes. Who wrote it? Lillian Hellman. Everyone knows that. What year was the movie made? Just yell it out if you know. 1984. Go to the back of the class. Who played Miss Davis' part on the stage?
Tallulah Bankhead.
Musicians can't play. You're relatives of the staff. That's right, Tallulah Bankhead. Can anyone summarize the plot for me? That's too difficult. How many Academy Awards has she won?
2.
Does anyone want to go for 3? 2 is right. 2 is right. Do you know what films they're for? Jezebel, right? Not Dark Victory, but Dangerous. Although in 1940, the exhibitors' poll voted Bette Davis the Queen of Hollywood. True or false? Right. Who was the... What male actor was voted the King of Hollywood? Sorry about that. Huh? Donald Duck? No, it was Mickey Rooney that year. No, that's the truth. In '36, Bette Davis made The Petrified Forest with 2 distinguished actors, one cast as a world-weary poet and the other a gangster. Who are they? Yes, ma'am. What? Son? Leslie Howard is right, and Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, you know which played which. In the title role of Elizabeth in Essex, which part did Bette Davis play? Come on. Nah, played the car. Which of the following 3 did not appear with her in that film? Leo Carroll, George Brent, or Errol Flynn? No, George Brent. This side has to leave. You were doing well. Let's see. Which of the following was not a Bette Davis movie? There's a clue in this now. The Man Who Played God, Marked Woman, The Man Who Came to Dinner, That Certain Woman, The Working Man, Front Page Woman, or Make Up Your Mind? Make up your mind. You're absolutely right. Can anyone describe briefly the plot of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
Weird.
No. Weird, yes, that was it. Very good. Which of the following is an actual line of dialogue delivered by Bette Davis in a well-known movie? Oh, Rhett, Atlanta may be burning, but not so bright like my heart. Oh, Jerry, don't let's ask for the moon. We have the stars. Frankly, Lord Essex, if you think you can break me as you do one of your horses, you're full of cheese. Does anyone have a guess on that? I think, yes, the stars line. True or false, quickly. Each of the following was a Bette Davis movie. Parachute Jumper? True. Fog Over Frisco? True. Love Me or Leave Me? False. Border Town?
True.
True. Hate Me or Hurt Me? False. The Menace? It's true. Kiss Me or Stomp Me? How many got them all right? Hands? That's amazing. The rest of you will stay and help us do dishes. And is she here yet, or shall I do some more? She's here. I panic that way every so often. Stay with us to meet Bette Davis, and now watch what can happen when a beautiful girl experiments with a beautiful fragrance called Xanadu. I don't think there's much that hasn't been said about it would be hard not to over-introduce Bette Davis. They've talked about her beauty and her wit and her charm and her intelligence and her talent, and she's also warm and kind and undeniably sexy, I feel, and mysterious, and there are stars and superstars and actors in the movies, and I never figured out exactly what that means. I guess an actor is somebody who's very good but doesn't have the giant personality that makes a star, and a star is often a person with a giant personality but not necessarily a good actor. So that is, I suppose if they needed another word, it would be superstar, and undeniably, you can't get any more so than my guest tonight. Will you welcome, please, Miss Bette Davis.
I'm going to talk to you tonight in Southern. Because you said all the ads today said Jezebel was coming here tonight.
Jezebel.
The ads,
that's
did
right.
you see the ads?
Yeah.
Jezebel, so I got to talk to you in Southern.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll drive you quite stark, raving mad before the show's over.
That's very authentic. Why are you so good at Southern accent? You're not from anywhere near the South.
Well, you know something very strange?
Yeah.
The Yankee accent is terribly different, but it isn't. No, truthfully, it is much easier for a Yankee to do Southern than you can imagine.
You mean a New Englander? Really? I never thought of that.
It's incredibly the same in some ways. It's quicker because it's colder country, you know, which is what makes lazy. No, it's true. In all countries, you'll find very lazy speech in where it's hot, you know.
Yeah.
But it is incredible. Well, of course, you know, all the Yankees, really, half of them came from Virginia when they migrated north, you know. So there's a... Anyway, I always wished I'd been born down there.
Does that have anything...
And I just have a feeling for it.
Yeah.
And when I went to dramatic school at John Murray's, he had nicknames for everybody. And for some crazy reason, he always called me the little Southern girl. For some crazy reason. And so much of my career has been playing Southern women, you know.
Right. But not the Southern woman. Not the one in Gone with the Wind.
No, well, get out of the water, I'll tell you that story.
Okay.
No, this is a joke on me. This is a horror on me. I get very nervous and dry. This is not gin.
Let me check and see.
I had...
It isn't.
I had, in the huge fight I had with Warner's as a kid when I went to England and ended up in court with them there, I went to see Mr. Warner just, you know, as a last hope, because I was fighting for good directors and good scripts. Literally, that's all I cared about, because money always follows, and I was doing some of those marvelous movies that some of you remember, how awful. Parachute Jumper, The Menace. You know, The Menace, I was a corpse. All I did was fall out of a closet.
But you did it so well.
Didn't I do it well? I
Yeah,
thought so, too.
yeah.
That was made at Columbia in 8 days. So anyway, I went to see Mr. Warner, and he begged me not to go. He said, please don't go. He said, I have just optioned a marvelous book for you. A new book by a woman named Margaret Mitchell, and the title is Gone with the Wind. And I was so angry about what they'd been giving me, like all these parachute jumpers and things. I said, I'll bet it's a dilly, and walked out of the office. If you can imagine, went to England, had the trial, came back about a year later and found out what Gone with the Wind was.
Yes.
Then there was a deal on for Mr. Selznick to borrow me for it, way in the beginning, and Errol Flynn. And Errol was the most beautiful man that ever lived and the most charming, but he sure couldn't have played Rhett Butler. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it with him. You know.
Did he ever find that out, or would you want him
Well, Errol was the most
know?
honest person about his talent. You know, he made no bones about saying I'm not an actor at all. But he just was he was one of the personality people you're talking about. He was marvelous.
Yeah. That thing that you did is really amazing. That did the studio take you to court, or did you originate it yourself?
Well, I perpetrated it by signing for a picture in Europe. And so, of course, they enjoined me.
So
and then I thought I could get the whole thing settled. But the case went against me.
But what an incredible thing at the time. I mean, no actor was ever upstart enough to
Was
dare
terrible,
to take a
because I had
studio into court
no,
because they'd been getting rotten parts and
Well, I knew that was my future. I knew that that only directors and good scripts could give me a career. I couldn't do it with the junk, that's all.
Had you set out just to be a star, do you know what I mean? Or did you want to be an actress?
Well, I always wanted,
as well?
Acting is, I feel I am an actress, I hope. Yeah. But, no, I never thought I would, with my taste in what I like to do, I never thought I would ever be a box office person. Because, you see, when I went there in 30, imagine looking at me after they'd been looking at these really beautiful women that had been in silent pictures for years. You know, imagine seeing Jean Harlow, and then I come through the gate, you know. And because I started in the theater, and stage actors, it wasn't important how you looked out of the theater. You know, I didn't wear makeup and glamorous clothes. You know, I just dressed in an ordinary little Yankee way. And they didn't understand people like that.
Was there something wrong with me for having found you beautiful all that time?
Well, you weren't born.
No, but I was...
I'll bet you money I could be your mother.
I was precocious.
Well, precocious, yes, that's right, you still are.
Oh.
No, but the true sense of the word precocious means you're brilliant.
Oh, it does?
Have you ever looked it up in the dictionary?
No,
They always say some child is precocious, and we've gotten to believe that it means they're just impossible to deal with. It means they're way beyond their years, and they're bright.
So it can be a precocious adult, too.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. How come you didn't kiss me, then, when you came out, if I'm so...
Well, I have to do, let's see, this is the 3rd show. By the 5th show, we'll give each other a hell of a kiss when I come out.
Oh, yeah. It's funny, we talked about that beforehand.
You know, I'm against it. I am rather sick of all this kissing at the talk shows. Well, of course, that's the old Yankee thing in me. You know, I don't use first names immediately, and I don't kiss people I don't know. I just don't.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people I don't know I'd like to have kissed, but I didn't.
We'll find out who they are.
Young men.
Oh, yes, of course. We'll find out after this message some of the names. Here's a message for all you grown-ups. Oh, we won't? Oh, Jerry, let's ask for the moon when we have the stars. Was that how the line went that I did at the beginning? Yeah.
Oh, isn't it, we have the stars, let's not ask for the moon. I don't know exactly how it goes, but it was a beautiful ending. Because, of course, the man in that was never going to be right for her. He was too weak. I always felt in Voyager that eventually she married Dr. Jackwith, my gorgeous Claude Rains. I always felt that. After the movie was all over, that she went and worked with him, you know, in his work. And
did you often think of the movies that way, of what happened beyond them?
Not often, but that was to me a great, great story. And by the way, speaking of that gorgeous woman, Miss Cooper, who played my mother, died last night.
Gladys Cooper died? Oh, I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
you know, without doubt, the most beautiful person as well as actress. and a professional with all her fame and theaters named after her in England and the great reigning beauty of England for a million years. Never was she late 1 minute. Never didn't she know every line. You know, we'd have been happy to have her if she'd worked half the day. Yeah. Most beautiful. I am really sad. And then you think, as these people go, these beautiful people go, you know, it's going to be a new world. We're not going to have that same kind of person anymore.
Something to that. I was thinking about that today.
Like when Claude Rains died. You couldn't bear it. You can't find anybody that had... They're all individuals.
Yeah. I had Gladys Cooper on the show when I was in London with Robert Morley, and it was a wonderful evening.
Didn't you just think
she
was
wonderful? He told me afterwards that her beauty was... How old was she?
She was 82.
Yeah. And her beauty was really something. He said that in her prime,
yes, they said
if she changed an article of clothing or anything that she wore, it would immediately become the rage all over
literally the rage
Europe.
of London for many, many years, yes.
Yeah. There's something about that thing you were saying, though, about we're not going to have certain kinds of people. I don't know.
Well, it may be, you know, I'm not going to sit around and moan for the past. Yeah. Because, you know, it's past. It's very past in my life, too, and, you know, and of course, you also say, who's going next, you know? This is a terrible thing that happens. And you say, maybe it's I, you know. Yeah. But it is, for our profession, it is, to me, so terribly depressing.
It hit you
like when Walter Houston died. You can't get that kind of a man anywhere in the world today again.
There won't be any more Walter Houston roles.
Well, I'll tell you, the English, as they've always had the majority of great male actors, always. We've had more women. They've had more beautiful male actors.
Do you have any idea why?
I cannot understand it. Yeah. But it's always been true since way back to Ronald Colman, Herbert Marshall, C. Aubrey Smith. Hollywood has always been really predominated in the star category by Englishmen. Leslie, you know, all these beautiful Englishmen. Herbert Marshall, Bob Hope.
Oh, Bob Hope was born in England. That's not.
Well,
not
it's
the same
just
thing.
not the same thing.
Yeah. But we both noticed that as soon as I said it.
But for instance, Richard Harris. I don't know who of you saw the Snow Goose the other night, but oh boy, oh boy, because you see, in a way, the Englishmen are more willing to play characters.
Did you mean Oh Boy Good or Oh Boy Bad?
Oh Boy Good.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Absolutely fantastic performance. And he is going to come along to eventually be, you know, play older parts. He can play them right now. There are several Englishmen. Dick Bogart, I think, one of the greatest actors that I know. Do you think so?
There was something about.
He's just fabulous. I'm dying to make a movie with him. Plays grandmother or something.
With Dirk Bogart.
Except I hear he's getting along in years. It might be just his mother.
There was something about you and Claude Rains together on the screen, and again, it was one of those things that it's silly to try to describe what it was. But I saw
of course, he
Deception
petrified me. The first time I played with him was in Carlotta, and I had to make an entrance into the King of France domain for a rehearsal. And he was playing the King of France in rehearsal, because, you know, all of us other era people, we don't just run through lines and then say, turn the camera. We rehearse beforehand. Very old-fashioned. Ridiculous today. Just go in and do it, you know. But anyway, Claude and I couldn't. So he was the King of France, who loathed Carlotta. And I was a kid and petrified of Mr. Rains. So I thought he hated me. I didn't know he was playing the character. I thought he thinks I just stink. What am I going to do? But eventually, we worked together quite a lot. Eventually, we became really great friends. We were really great friends.
Was he a happy man? I like to think so, because he gave me so much pleasure.
Well, I think as happy as any... I don't think as a group actors are what I'd call happy people. I think we're very moody people. I think we have, you know, great ups and great downs. And if something goes well or if something turns out badly, you're depressed for days. And I think we're terribly peculiar that way, and rather lonely people, actually. Yeah. So Claude, I could not say was a happy person. He was witty, amusing, and beautiful. Really beautiful. Thoroughly enchanting to be with, and brilliant.
His entrance in Deception, that movie I saw just the
Was
other
he
night,
marvelous in that?
where he comes in and says, "A party indeed."
Oh, yes, he was so
It's
wonderful
one of
in
the
that.
best entrances
It was worth
in
the
it.
whole thing, because the picture wasn't terribly good, but he was so and the restaurant scene where he was talking about all the food.
Order,
Oh,
yeah.
brilliant. And of course in Skeffington he was absolutely brilliant. As the husband, just brilliant.
There is that thing, it has to do with what you're talking about there are people, you say, of your era, or some phrase you used like that. You could see them in movie after movie that wasn't particularly great, but you thought, gee, I'd like to know that person, or they're really a dynamite personality, or they're really something. Now, if you see a bad movie, the actors are on the same level as the movie. They don't seem to stand out in it. You don't seem to say... I hate to generalize like this,
Well,
but
no,
it seems like there were
we
more
can't generalize,
cases
but
of that.
there's much less sort of effort put into it. You know, I think acting should look as if we were working a little. You know.
Should get a little credit for your craft.
Yes, you know, it's like the juggler who loses twice, and then he gets it, you know, finally.
Yeah.
Which is a very old-fashioned theory today. You see, we mustn't have any idea that anybody knows the camera's on them at all.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's just life. Well, we all have life. It's 12 hours a day, and sometimes we want to forget life. You know, and I think it should be a little larger than life. A little bit theatrical. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm going to do this just life-size now. We will return after this message. I was told to pull my socks up during that break.
I know, and so I pulled my skirt down, so we each did something. Are we all right now, sir?
Do you like us over there now?
Oh, that's good.
Oh, we're passable now. You know, they always used to ask this formula questions in the old photo play magazines,
Yes.
like, what was your first screen kiss like, and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Let's do a variation of that. Did you ever kiss anyone on the screen who was so repulsive that you just couldn't stand to? Did you?
I wish I could use the name.
If so, what was his name was going to be the second part of this.
I absolutely can't till he dies.
Maybe if you do,
But
he
I
will.
want to tell you, it was really something.
I never expected you to answer this.
Yeah, it was really something.
How would you describe it if you had to, what are some adjectives?
It's just something you didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Did you
It's
know?
just a very ugly kind of mouth. Now, interestingly enough, kissing on the screen, I don't want to ruin anybody's illusions. It's probably the most awkward, difficult thing in the world. Number one, the man's apt to get all covered in gook.
Yeah.
The angle of the head's important. It can be very unattractive kissing on the screen, unless the man really has to run it. Like in life, he really should run it. I think nowadays the women are running the kissing more, but I don't know, really. I think they are. But, well, there are more and more bachelors in the world today. After 30, nobody wants to marry, you know, it's terrible. But anyway, it is not an easy thing to have charm. A love scene's a very difficult thing on the screen.
How did you make yourself go through with this
Well,
odious
I was
kiss?
just getting my salary every week, and there I was. And that was in the script, and I just had to.
You'd kiss him for money.
Yeah, I kissed him. It was the only time that was true. But the other kissing experience, I arrived at Universal on 3 months options, from the theater. And they didn't know what on earth to do with something that looked like me. God, just didn't know. So they asked me if I'd help test some men for a part.
Sounds sinister, doesn't it?
They lay me. Now, at that age, and I want to tell you, in 1930, I was the yankiest, modest virgin that ever walked the earth. Let me put it that way. So they lay me on a couch, and I tested 15 men.
You want to reword those two
I'm not
sentences?
kidding you. And they all had to lie on top of me and give me a passionate kiss. Oh! I thought I'd die. I just thought I'd die.
That wasn't what you expected it would be in Hollywood. I mean, at least not...
No, well, I didn't really know about being a test girl, no. I didn't do it again.
Were they doing that just to see
No,
at
no,
what
they
number
have to have a, you know, if they're testing for men, for a part, they use some girl, any girl they have, and I was under contract, any girl they have, to just help out with the test. And they obviously had to have a woman there for the man to kiss to see if he could do it right. 15 of them.
Are you sure there was film in the camera? Or?
Yes, oh yes, there was film in the camera. There certainly was.
Yeah. Do you ever see any of those men? Have you ever remember it?
Interestingly enough, one of them was Gilbert Rowland.
Oh.
And I must say, after he kissed me, I thought, this is not so bad. And years later, got to know him very well, worked with him several times, and he's a smashing, perfectly marvelous guy anyway. But he got the part, so I was right in my opinion as well as the camera. That was horrible. You'd be surprised how often that happened in the old days with contract people.
And worse, I expect.
Well, that happened privately, I imagine.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
Exactly.
Yes.
We have to take a station break. We'll be right back. Ah, here we are.
In the break,
Take two.
having told you of the horror of lying on that couch and kissing 15 men, I don't think I'd mind it today at all.
Which brings us to the title of that song, You're Either Too Young or Too Old.
Yes, that's right.
Was, you were saying during the break also. May I get that for you, or does that offend you?
Oh, no, I'm not woman's lib.
Well, I am, you know.
You mean you've liberated a lot of women? You see, really, only the man can do that anyway. Liberate women.
Oh, it's a.
Well, it's a very intimate subject which you'll not go on with.
Oh.
But no, a man who really loves you is a kind of a wonderful liberation. You feel like a different person.
And yet you said.
I'm not hinting.
No, but we know each other well. You came up to my dressing room last time before the show and caught me in my
I
underwear.
didn't dare this time.
Yeah. You did. You're one of the few people to see me in my underwear.
Well, I told you your legs were beautiful.
I know. You know, you said, that gets me to something, but you said one time a thing that I haven't forgotten. You said that if I had it to do over again, which already is a risky thing to say, you probably wouldn't marry.
As early.
Ah, as early. I misremembered.
And I would have always married somebody with money.
You would.
I mean, I would not have married just for money. No, this is serious. But I would not have married someone who could not support me. Because that is the death of any marriage. Men don't like this.
And that's where the trouble
They think beforehand that it doesn't matter. And I'm everything that was mine was always anybody else's, which was my greatest mistake in the world because they took most of it. But that's the way I had to do it. You know, I couldn't say, I have this and you have that. And however you have to be, you have to be. But no, I would never have married anybody who did not have his own niche in the world. That was the one big mistake I made.
Hard on the man,
except I got a beautiful daughter from one of these awful marriages. So there's good out of everything. I couldn't mind an hour of what that was like for Bede. I really couldn't. And who knows, I might not ever have had Bede.
Sure.
You know, and I think my life right now without children would be a sad and sorry affair.
Well, you called your book A Lonely Life some years ago.
Lonely Life.
The Lonely Life.
Because I think the people in the art world, we're peculiar. We have a hard time finding people to travel with. We really do. Yeah. There is an extra sense there and we're very dedicated people to our work, which is not fun for a partner, really. And there's no other way to do it but just do it. There's never a shortcut in anybody's business to really learn it, you know. It takes a lot of years to finally say you made it. It takes about usually 15 to 20 years.
Where do you get the nerve as a woman in a business like the movies, with everybody advising you're making the mistake of your career, when you went to court with the Warner Brothers, to go ahead with it? What private voices do you have that tell you
Well, I had voices that told me that I was at a dead-end road otherwise. I was just going to be some little... You know, the story of Alexis Smith, for instance, with this play in New York. She was at Warner's all the time I was there. Played perfectly charming leading roles and all. But nothing was ever found out of her like is on that stage.
I know.
You know, she's just No, really. This must have been something that Alexis had all the time.
They didn't know what they had in her.
And maybe she didn't fight enough, or maybe she didn't know she had it.
Yeah, the
but
other.
I could never be second best. If I had to be second best in a business, I would go into another business. And I just was determined to at least finally learn my trade. And you can only learn your trade by doing good things, not just junk.
God's Country was the movie that you, I think, was that the title of the movie that you refused to do? The one that broke
God's Country and the Woman.
Camel's back.
Yes. But the one I left on was The Man with the Black Hat with Warren Williams. I'd had it. This was it, you see.
Certainly a wonderful title.
So when yes, always marvelous, yes. But anyway, when I came back from England completely defeated, I didn't have really a nickel in this world and had to go back and play out my contract. Warner's issued an order that not one pressman was to meet me at the 12-mile limit. Now, you can imagine when I got into that harbor what it was like with the press. It was murder.
The case was in England. You lost the case there. You came back here.
The case had been sensational even over here.
Yeah.
But a little man in Chicago, because at that time we traveled by train, hid out and came into my compartment in Chicago, even though he was told not to. He said, "Don't worry. It can never be any worse. They sold dishes with the man with the black hat to get them to come in." He said, "It can never be worse than that." Yeah. You know.
So, although you lost the case,
I just couldn't.
You won.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I won that case.
Even though the court.
Even though monetarily I didn't.
Yeah.
And I must say, Warner did. I had their costs too. You see.
Yeah.
They paid
You had to
those.
pay the court costs.
Yeah.
The other question then is, why didn't anybody else do it? Why don't more actors fight?
Olivia de Havilland finally did it. Olivia de Havilland won the case I fought in England, which really was a suspension clause. You see, you could sign for 5 years and be there 50 years later. If you refused to do it, this put you on suspension, take you off salary. When that picture was finished, they'd add it to the contract. Olivia is the one who got us the 7-year limit. There can never be a longer contract than 7 years anymore.
What about men? What about Bogart and Cagney and...
Well, they fought. You know, Bogart, Jimmy, and I think, had the same amount of suspensions from Warner's under contract there, about 16 or 18 apiece.
What do you do to get one? Walk on the grass?
Well, you just refuse to do a part, and then
Yeah.
they suspend you. They don't pay you. And then however long that film takes, they add to your contract. You see, so it really was a wicked, wicked contract. So Olivia won the case I tried to win.
If more actors would refuse to do crappy roles, would there be less junky movies?
I'll tell you what I think. If in that time, anyway, more actors had worried more about where their careers went and less about their salaries at that time, because that's not a time to fight for money. Money comes if the career comes. But so many people started going into business. They bought, you know, motels, apartments, and they really stopped being actors. They were businessmen, and they played anything they gave them, and they could have helped if more people had refused. No question.
Did anybody at the time encourage you to do it, or was it unanimous that you were making a mistake?
Well, I never talked to many people in Hollywood about it. I never was one to go for advice much. I probably should have gone a little more than I did upon occasion, but no, this was my decision. Because I felt, and I do still feel, if you're beefing about anything publicly, you know, either put up or shut up. Either go ahead and do the rotten movies and be quiet, or change it if you can. And I decided that I was going to try and change it.
Don't you think actors probably
It
don't...
did take courage. You know,
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and I haven't any idea how I had the guts to do that whole thing. I have no idea. But when you're young, and wanting to get somewhere, that's a terrific incentive. You know, I just had to at least be given a chance to see if I was any good.
How old were you at the time?
Let's see. Oh, around 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, that's amazing.
Around 25.
Well, when we come back, let's take a look at a scene from Watch on the Rhine, and you wanted to tell me something about it before we do. Is that okay?
Oh, all right.
We'll do all that when we come back?
All right.
Great. I'm talking with Bette Davis about Watch on the Rhine. Would it be safe to say that's one of your favorite
No,
films?
no.
It wouldn't be safe at all.
No, it wouldn't be safe at all.
You hear that?
No, it's very interesting. Shyamalan, of course, who did it here in New York, did it. Lucas did it on the screen also, played it also. And Mr. Wallace asked me if I would play the wife for name value.
Name value to them.
For name value to them, because
Yeah.
it was not a good risk. But he wanted to make it. And because it was such an incredible document at that time of everything we were going through, and of course Miss Helmer's writing is always super brilliant, I more than willingly played it. But it was not ever my favorite part, except for one speech, which is the speech you're going to see about being alone at night. And I think it's one of the great speeches, and I think there's a woman here that won't agree with this speech.
Okay, let's take a look at the scene from Watch on the Rhine.
I have seen many men die. I give you advice. It is easier without words. They will not now do you good. You will be better without them.
I think it's all over now. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the way it had to be. Going away now. I don't think he'll ever come back anymore. Never, never, never. I don't like to be alone at night. I guess everybody in the world's got a time they don't like. Me, it's right before I go to sleep. Now it's going to be for always. All the rest of my life.
I didn't really give you much help with that. Her husband was, against the Nazis, and he had to kill a man, and he was going back to Germany to fight for the Nazis. I should have told you that. I'm sorry.
He was an anti-fascist.
It was a much shorter speech than I remember, too. Maybe they cut it for television.
We wouldn't dare.
No, I don't mean on your show, but I mean, maybe they have.
I'd heard that that part that Paul Lucas, the man with the gun, played was based on a real character who was seen around Hollywood. Rudolph Breda was the name he went by.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I know it was a worthwhile film to make. It was worthwhile.
Yeah. Nice to see that. Here's a message from Max Factor. We'll be right back. I just thought of, the last thing I remember worrying about you was when you were felled by a wasp, it said.
In Scotland.
And it didn't give very many of the details in the thing.
Well, I had the misfortune to have the sting go into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And you see around here some of the most basic veins. So in about 10 minutes, I was hot and cold. I was all sort of alone in this motel. Hot and cold all over. Everything itched, my bottom of my feet. And then in about 10 more minutes, this lip was out to here and up here. So I then began to get a little worried. So they found a darling Scottish nurse who came over, and she said, oh, this is for a doctor. By then the arm, you can't believe, I've been stung by wasps all my life in camps in Maine as a kid, The arm was right up to there, fire red, bright red, and a rock.
What do you mean a rock?
Well, it was just...
Hard?
It was a rock.
Yeah.
This took me about a week.
You could die from that. People every year die.
If it ever gets up to the lymph gland, you die. It got up this far with me.
Gee. You should get injections or something for that now, because you don't get immunity to insect
yes,
stings.
Yes, but you wouldn't have this. Once in a
worse.
million years hit a main blood.
Oh, the fact that it hit the main...
Oh, yes, because a wasp, what it stings, you always put mud on it, In the Maine woods camping, just mud is the greatest thing for any sting, bee sting or wasp sting. Take all the fire out immediately.
But the insect stings, you don't develop immunity. It goes the other way, and you can get
Well, I
the
just
next
never
one
had
can be
any
worse.
until this darling little creature.
You could go into shock from that.
Oh, listen. If I hadn't gotten a doctor, I don't know what would have happened. The mouth went down in about a day. It was just frightening. I'm a wasp.
Did you see the wasp that did it?
Oh, yes, I killed it.
Yeah.
I finally killed it. But he really went in about 3 times.
Ooh.
It was under a dressing gown sleeve, you see, so he felt trapped. So he likes me even less.
Is it possible that Joan Crawford put it there? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of that movie.
No, no, that wouldn't be something she'd do. No.
No. I was thinking, of course, of the film.
No.
Say, this is sort of not a wasp.
No. Not a wasp. Gun, maybe.
A what?
A gun, maybe, but not a
Not a
wasp.
wasp. Why haven't you been victimized by your career? I mean, when you think of the people who have been, like Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland and the people like that, can you figure out what it is in the people?
Well, it takes great discipline, and I think I was very fortunate in my upbringing. I think my New England background for the work I went into was extraordinary stabilizer, and I just couldn't. You know, I just couldn't. And I also was an extremely healthy person. You know, I didn't have to do this. And, you know, enthusiastic, loved my work. I really, in that area, had no problems. No reason to escape with dope or pills or alcohol or anything. And you can't work the way I did for 15 or 20 years and do any of that. It's just impossible.
There aren't a lot of people who've been killed by Hollywood, though, aren't there? I don't know
Yes,
how many.
and in a way, I understand it. I don't think probably there's any work in the world that involves nerves as much as public performing. I think you'll agree with me on that. I think it isn't physical. It's this terrible nervous strain of wanting to do it right and being scared you won't. Well, what it takes out of you is astronomical. You know that. And when you think you do it years and years and years, and if you're not a very strong person physically, you're going to have to need something to, you know, get you on that set in the morning.
Yeah.
And you're going to then you don't sleep and you don't. I just was lucky. I didn't have that problem. So I can't feel superior in any way to the tragedies. I mean, for a talent like Miss Garland, it's just tragic. They don't come along like that very often. And it's just sad that she didn't treasure it more and take care of it more, you know. But it's big discipline. Oh, it really is. You've got to be an enormously disciplined person.
There's certain people who have that kind of, you call it a sort of Yankee, I don't know what fiber or something.
Well, I do think that's a perfectly marvelous, you know, it's a tough upbringing. This is not a red carpet world in New England, you know.
Would you say Katharine Hepburn has it?
Katharine Hepburn is the same background, the same type person.
Yeah.
Same type person, enormous discipline.
Is there any reason why big stars, women, are not necessarily very good friends? I mean, you never hear of you and Ava Gardner or Katharine Hepburn or Marlene Dietrich going fishing together. I mean...
Well, you know, it really depends on who you work with. And you see, we don't work together very often. For instance, the group of people I knew the most were the people that I worked with at Warner's all those 18 years. And if I had been at Metro, I probably would have known many of those people much more because they all knew each other. I don't think it's by any intent or jealousy or not wanting to know each other. I think all of those people you're talking about were very occupied all those many, many years. And it does not leave much time, really, to have a lot of friends.
And then wouldn't it be awfully hard to really, frankly, to just like somebody who really is in competition with you for the country's affection, or is
No, I haven't got that. I think it's up to you. I think that if you can't be as good or better, it's not the other person's fault. No, I've never felt that kind of jealousy at all. No. Now, if I went to work today with Raquel Welch, no doubt I would look at her every morning and want to kill her.
You wouldn't, would you?
No, I wouldn't, but I would be very envious of, say, the way she looked. But that's the wrong way to approach it anyway.
Yeah.
It's the wrong way to approach it.
If you'd been trapped in Myra Breckinridge, how long do you think you would have lasted?
Well, they wouldn't have gotten me there in the first place. I mean, I would never have signed to do Myra Breckinridge. You know, I think it's disgrace.
Do you? Yeah.
Oh, I think, how do you put that book? Number one, how do you read the book? I don't know, because I made a few chapters and thought, oh, come on. Why do you in the first place start to film that? You can't film that book. You see, anything today they get that's a little bit kooky, which certainly that book was, they try to film it.
I was thinking not only from, not just the material, but the fact that the movie was made in that strange way where people were making up their own dialogue and they were changing characters.
Oh, well, this I'm not clever enough to do. You see, I do think we need writers. Yeah. I mean, I bow down. You know, everything I have is due to some man writing something wonderful that I was given the privilege to play. Believe you me, in the beginning, you must have that marvelous script and that marvelous writer. Oh, I could never ad-lib. I don't believe in it.
I can always tell when they're doing it, and the supposedly
of course you can tell when
you can always tell it.
Well, this is the new thing, though, the ad-lib scene. That's making it natural, you see. Now you're not acting, you're ad-libbing. You see, you're just being you, you know. And this, of course, is against everything I believe in. Everything.
Can you tell
I'm just
which
old-fashioned.
See if you can tell which I'm doing now. Our local stations have a message.
Unbelievable.
We were just talking about those old interviews we talked about earlier, where they, for some reason, wanted to know what a famous person's favorite color was, for reasons I never could...
Skolsky, for instance, became absolutely famous, Sidney Skolsky, and one of our really great columnists, I must say he was. But he had one pet question. What do you wear when you go to bed?
Yes.
Well, you know, really. Really.
Was it, why did he want to know? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think that was a marvelous gimmick of his. And he usually got answers. But, of course, speaking of all the silly questions, you always could say no comment. Mr. Roosevelt gave us that.
No comment.
You can never. You know, like people say when I'm coming on with someone like you for 90 minutes, don't you want to, know what's going to happen? I don't want to know the questions ahead because, number one, I trust your taste, but if you should ask me something that I really don't want to go into, I've got a perfectly nice smile and not insulting. You can say, I don't want to talk about it. Nobody can make you talk about something. So if you're fool enough to talk about it, then it's not your fault, it's mine. Like many bad interviews, this is what happens. It's the actor's fault. Yeah. They get 5 good hookers in them and tell their life story. Well, then you cannot blame the interviewer who goes out and prints it. Because he knows, the actor or actress knows she's having an interview.
A hooker is a glass of...
the stuff.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just whiskey, nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, we know each other, and I wouldn't be likely to...
No, but I mean anybody, for instance, who does an interview with drinks is a fool.
Yeah.
Because we all know we talk more with drinks. And it is really up. I talk without them, you're saying. Is that what you're laughing? But, well, I'm here to talk. I have to talk tonight. Sometimes I'm very quiet. You'd be surprised.
I think we've kept it on a relatively high plane, too, up to this point.
Yes,
How did you lose your virginity, Betty?
I'll tell you.
I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me.
I have to tell you how old-fashioned I was. I married before I lost my virginity. What's more, I was 26 years old, and it almost killed me to wait. Well, it's the truth.
I swear I did not know.
That is the way I was brought. That's the way. I think there has been an improvement over. I think this is a wicked upbringing.
To have to wait till 26.
Well, no. I mean, if you don't, just to marry for this is wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. And I assure you that is not the way my daughter was brought up at all. Mm-hmm. You know, nor do I believe in this horrible promiscuity. But if you really love somebody, you don't just marry. It's ridiculous. My mother was wrong. It was a very stupid upbringing.
Yeah. That has to account for the gigantic divorce rate. I mean, a lot of it. It's certainly not all of it, but certainly a lot of it.
I think
the fact
it
that if you
accounted
want
for
sex,
an
you're going to get married.
enormous amount of gigantic.
And so they get married for that purpose, and it turns out
Well, it's just perfectly stupid. Yeah. It's just stupid. Because it really, you know, to be very serious on the whole subject for a minute, you started out, you never must joke with me, I'll go into something serious, you see. No, it is really one of the great gifts that God gave human beings. It's one of the most important parts of our lives. And there can be no marriage unless that is right. They can't, you can't just separate them.
No.
You know, and I think what's going on today is a vast, vast improvement from my era.
Even though you don't like certain aspects of it. Yeah.
Well, I think you must trust whatever child you give this privilege to, not to turn out to be a tramp. That's very important, but I think you must know your child.
Is your mother turning over in her grave to hear you speak even this?
No, I always talk. Mother and I always were very frank talking. We always talked about everything. She was a great chum.
Was it she?
I miss her all the time. I get to look more like her all the time too.
Did she tell you about the birds and the bees?
No, there was no sort of real education. You know, if you want to come to Connecticut in front of the fire some night, and I'll tell you about my wedding night, you'll be on the floor for 3 hours. No, I did not mean that! No! I meant laughing on the floor, right? Oh, no, Richard's too young. I have more sense than that.
I was just trying to think what Groucho Marx would have said.
No, I didn't.
Oh, really? Could you make it 2? I have an appointment. I think we better take a message and recover. We'll be right back. I'm talking with Bette Davis. I hate to talk to you about only Hollywood, and yet everybody who goes there either goes crazy or succeeds or commits suicide or does something dramatic, and they always say, and those who hate it, the writers and the actors always say, I'm saving this for my book. I'm going to write a book about it. And all.
Yes.
What's the best book written about Hollywood? Has there ever been one that told it as it is?
I think Bud Schulberg's.
What Makes Sammy Run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the best book to describe what those incredible men that we worked for, that seemed to us so inartistic and so lacking in knowledge of the art part of making a movie, that they had something. And they had something, you don't know what it was. It was a kind of a magic, gambling, intuitive thing. That has gone. We now have oil companies owning the studios. It's all business today. And those men that they were exasperating because there was no way of communicating with the way they thought. But they, boy, gave us our chances. They gambled. Think of the money they gambled on someone like me before the money really started coming back. They gambled. Gambling has gone. I mean, you don't on a set today dare play some little joke. Somebody will come up and say, come on, come on.
Costing money.
So all the fun has even gone out of it. We used to pull gags on sets. We made pictures in 4 and 5 weeks. Way back there, Dark Picture was made in 4 weeks. We didn't waste any time. We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
Would it be wrong to say it was affection you had for those men, though? I mean, how do you feel about the fact that if you had bombed in 3 more movies in a row at a certain point in your career, you would not have been able to get them on the phone again the rest of your life? They would just
I would just walked into the office and sat.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get them. Yeah. You know, really. I must say I never couldn't get in and see Jack. And the other thing, I always could go to him because he was the head man. Well, I go through 10 other people with messages. We, with all the talk and all this groan and groan and groan about Jack Warner and me, we had a pretty smashing relationship. And one thing, he did respect me. Because at least I was honest and came out and said what was what.
And there wasn't that sense of if you had failed for them, and they wouldn't have cared if they ever saw you again.
Oh, on their side, no affection. Mm-hmm. On their side, my dear, I finished 18 years at Warner's, built many sound stages there, never got a letter of goodbye, ended up in the back lot with a sound man, Heinz Blanke, a producer, till dawn, having drinks, and that's how I left the Warner lot.
But no big goodbye party, nothing engraved, no...
Oh, no. If you go into this business and expect gratitude or thanks, this is why we all have to get very tough about what we will and won't do. Because if we don't, they will just take advantage of you till it's unbelievable. There is no affection from there to here. But there were, for many actors, great gratitude from here to there.
That's interesting. Gee,
and you know, 4 compliments a year, we never would have asked for so much money. Truthfully.
That's the one thing they didn't realize.
They never knew it. Actors are complete suckers for good parts, you know, and just saying, you did a good job, Betty. Never, never, never.
But if they'd known, it would have saved money.
I think it would have made a whole different salary scale in California. Yes, I do. They only respected you by how much money you made. You could be the same actress at $650 a week or $30,000 a week, and you're a much better actress at $30,000 a week. When I made Jezebel, I was only making $650 a week, which was a phenomenally small salary. I'd been there quite a while. Faye Bainter was making twice my salary.
Yeah.
But I never fought for money, you see, until many, many years later. I fought for parts, and that automatically makes it work. Then there comes a time they cannot help but change your contract because it's so obvious how much money you're making.
Yeah. Do you ever think about the women who envy you? I mean by that, whenever there's an interview with somebody who talks about how tough any part of their acting career was.
Still water.
It is. You know, I mean, there's a woman somewhere now who's saying, if I would give 10 years of my dreary life here in Pennsylvania or wherever she is, for one night where I go down Hollywood Boulevard in a limousine and they open the door and I walk past barricades of 20 and 30 and 40 screaming, you know, or dozens of screaming people pressing at me and being pushed back and flashbulbs popping and what's it, you know?
This, of course, must make many people wish they could do it. If you ever got blasé enough not to be thrilled by, say, a reception like this tonight, or people outside who care about you, if you ever get bored or blasé about that, it's shocking, because these are the rewards. Of course they're the rewards for, you know, in my case, 30, 71, this is 41 years I've been in this business. Wow. Now, you know, I don't know why I'm still alive, but somehow it keeps on going. I feel I should be dead. It's been so long.
That's a very modest thing to say.
No, imagine, 41 years I've been in this business. And of course it's rewarding that people still know you. My good fortune to be known by the young people today is the late television. See, I have had 2 careers. All the kids today would never know anything about people in my era without late television. You realize that.
That's right. And more people know you from that.
We all were furious about the residuals. We should have gotten our residuals, but in a way, this is a bigger reward. You know, so naturally, it is a thrill. But that is not what the real thrill is, which I would say to any young person. The limousines and all the crowds you really sweat for about 15 years. And you've got to love the actual sweat more than the lights and the glamour and the whole thing. This you must love the most. The other will follow, and then you just thank God that you made it. You know. Yeah. So, but I can understand it. The greatest thing about having made it in movies is when you travel. It is, Dietrich said this once, and she's so right. It's just heaven. or going to restaurants. They'll shove people out or anything. Or if there's 2 seats on a plane and you gotta have them, you'll get them. You know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I often get very guilty about this and think, oh, I hope I never meet the poor person that was told he couldn't have seats for this. But the traveling thing is absolutely marvelous. People, for instance, way off in Scotland, the way people took care of me, you know, cared about me. When we arrived in Glasgow, of course, you knew when my career started by the fans that were there. There wasn't anything but a white hair in the bunch. But these beautiful Scotch women who were really crying, they never thought in their lives, and they'd known me 40 years, they really felt they knew me, thought in their lives to see me. You know, and they all brought the little bunches of heather. It was really, this is part of the reward. But boy, you don't get that for a long, long time. And that must never be your motive. See, that can't be the motive. Because that isn't what you want the most. You want to get on that stage and work.
Very well said. Local stations have a message. We'll be back. There's almost no time left, and
I really cannot believe it.
I know,
but
really
that is
flew by.
your compliment, Dick. That's your compliment.
Oh.
You know, no, truthfully, it's your compliment. No, I just told you, really, you're so great at this job.
I can't take compliments.
Yeah. Isn't it? Really. Well, no, I know. Well, no, you're like I am. I think public compliments are very embarrassing. I don't do very well with them either. But, well, that's the way we were brought up, you see.
What about public insults? Did you ever suffer at the hands of the old Crocs, Lolly, and Hedda, and the old gossip columnists?
Yes, but I'll tell you, I had a procedure about all that kind of thing. It was purely business. Never social, never came to my home, any Hollywood columnist. And I had some very rough times. Yes, I had some very rough times, particularly with Luella.
Yeah.
Very rough. But she was probably one of the greatest newspaper women that will ever be. Let's hand it to her.
Professional
she was a pro newspaper woman. Nothing would stop her from getting a story if she possibly could. Well, that was her business, wasn't it? And
the results were a little sad in some cases to the victims.
Yes, but people obviously answered her.
Yeah, they didn't have to tell, did they?
They didn't have to tell. You see, this is really why sometimes you should not blame. Rex Reed has been criticized. You shouldn't blame Rex Reed. He tells you quite honestly when he comes, in my case, he came to my house. He said, whatever you do in this house today, I, as a reporter, feel privileged to write about.
Yeah.
You know, and he's absolutely right. It's a business, isn't it? He's in business and I'm in business, right?
Did you have him on the floor for 3 hours?
I knew it! I almost said it before you did. I almost did. No, darling, no, we weren't on the floor.
Okay. I just had to know.
No, I haven't been on the floor for many years.
Well, I don't... I'm not gonna...
You brought up the subject
I'm not
going to
pursue this. That's right. I've never asked anyone else that, and I never thought anyone would answer it.
Well, you can talk about anything today. It doesn't matter anymore, you see. We did it with great taste, I thought.
I thought we did,
yes,
sure.
I thought so,
yeah,
too.
I thought we set a good example for the older folks.
I think...
Well, sometime I would like to come out and see your place out there. I don't mean to be angling for an invitation or anything like that, but
well,
I can't believe that I know you. You know, I mean, I'm going to find out one of these days that this is not the Bette Davis, but it's somebody else, and that.
Well, that's a nice compliment.
It's a funny thing.
I hope when people meet me, they don't sort of feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't feel that way myself. You see, I'm constantly amazed that somebody says you're the. I sort of go. Yes, I guess I am. I guess I am.
You are.
Except when I'm working. When I'm working, I'm what I am, an actress. But when I'm not working, I don't feel like that.
You can kind of forget who you are, what
yeah,
you do.
I go to do the dishes. Look at my hands. You can tell that. I should follow some of those commercials on television where they say your nails grow like this, you know.
Say, we have one right now. I don't know if
have?
it's about that, but we have a message from our local stations. Maybe that'll be it. It's all been said, Miss Davis. They certainly stumped on the mold when they made you. It's a pleasure.
Well, it's a good thing.
Yes, it is. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure.
I've loved it. Really and truly. Loved it.
Right.